The storm raged outside, but the most terrifying part was not the thunder or lightning. It was the shadowy figure knocking at my door and window, disappearing into the darkness, leaving handprints as proof of its presence. On a stormy night, I found myself home alone, the perfect setting to indulge in a movie marathon. The rain poured down in torrents, thunder boomed, and lightning intermittently lit up the room, creating an eerie but cozy atmosphere. Despite the raging storm outside, I felt secure inside my home, the familiar surroundings providing a sense of comfort. Little did I know, the night was about to take a terrifying turn that would shatter that sense of security. During a break in the movie, I heard a faint knocking at the front door. It was so quiet at first that I almost dismissed it as the storm playing tricks on my ears. But as I paused the movie, the knocking continued, growing more insistent. My heart began to race as I approached the door, peering through the peephole into the rain-soaked darkness. I saw nothing. The knocking persisted, a rhythmic tapping that seemed to grow louder with each passing second. I hesitated, feeling a knot of unease tighten in my stomach. Who could be out there in such weather? And why were they knocking on my door? Taking a deep breath, I unlocked the door and swung it open, expecting to see someone seeking shelter from the storm. But the doorway was empty. The rain pelted down, the wind howling through the trees. But there was no sign of anyone. I stepped back inside, closing the door quickly, trying to shake off the creeping fear that had settled over me. I returned to the couch, my mind racing with questions. I tried to focus on the movie, but the uneasy feeling gnawed at me. Minutes later, another knock echoed through the house, this time coming from the living room window. My heart leapt into my throat as I turned to look. The rain lashed against the window, making it hard to see clearly. For a brief moment, a flash of lightning illuminated the scene outside, and I saw it. A shadowy figure standing just beyond the glass. The figure was indistinct, more of a silhouette than a person, but it was undeniably there. I scrambled to my feet, my heart pounding in my chest. I rushed to the window, but by the time I got there, the figure had vanished into the darkness. The rain continued to pour, the storm seemingly intensifying. I quickly closed and locked all the windows, double-checking the doors as well, the fear growing stronger with each passing minute. The image of the shadowy figure haunted me as I moved through the house, making sure every possible entry point was secured. The storm outside was relentless, the sound of the rain and thunder creating an almost deafening backdrop to my growing terror. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the figure was still out there, lurking in the shadows. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind against the windows, made me jump. I kept glancing at the windows, half expecting to see the figure reappear at any moment. The fear was overwhelming, a cold, paralyzing dread that settled deep in my bones. I spent the rest of the night in a state of heightened alertness, unable to relax. I sat in the living room, the TV muted, straining to hear any sound that might indicate the figure's return. The storm raged on, the lightning casting fleeting shadows that only added to my anxiety. As the hours dragged on, the storm showed no signs of letting up. I stayed awake, my mind racing with thoughts of who or what could be outside. The knocks had stopped, but the fear remained, a constant presence that refused to be ignored. I couldn't sleep, couldn't close my eyes without seeing the shadowy figure looming in the darkness. The night felt endless, each minute stretching into an eternity. The wind howled, the rain pounded against the windows, and the occasional roll of thunder rattled the house. I felt like a prisoner in my own home, trapped by the storm and the unseen threat lurking outside. Every sound made me jump, every shadow seemed to move with a life of its own. I clutched a blanket around me, as if it could offer some protection against the unknown. The fear was suffocating, a weight that pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. Finally, as the first light of dawn broke through the storm clouds, the rain began to let up. The thunder grew distant, and the wind calmed. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding, the tension slowly draining from my body. I waited until the storm had passed completely before daring to move. When I finally felt safe enough, I approached the living room window. My heart skipped a beat as I saw them. Handprints smeared on the glass, evidence that someone or something had indeed been there. The sight of those handprints sent a fresh wave of fear through me, a stark reminder of the night's terror. The experience left a deep impression on me. The memory of the shadowy figure and the mysterious knocks still haunts me, a lingering fear that I can't shake. Every time it storms, I'm transported back to that night, the sense of unease creeping in once more. The handprints may have faded, but the fear remains, a constant reminder of the unknown dangers that can appear when you least expect them. But wait, there's more. Brace yourself for the next spine-chilling tale. And if you're enjoying the scares, don't forget to subscribe and let us know in the comments. Story 2. The storm outside was terrifying enough, but it was the whispers calling my name from the dark basement that left me paralyzed with fear. I was home alone on a stormy night, the kind that makes you feel both cozy and uneasy. The rain pounded hard against the windows, and the wind howled like a banshee. Just as I settled in for a quiet evening, the power went out, plunging the house into an unsettling darkness. I lit some candles and sat on the couch, trying to calm myself with the soft, flickering light. The storm outside raged on, the thunder rumbling in the distance. Little did I know, the night was about to take a terrifying turn. As I sat there, listening to the storm, I began to hear faint whispers coming from the hallway. At first, I thought it was just the wind blowing through the cracks in the doors. But the whispers grew clearer, and I began to make out words. They were disjointed phrases, but one thing was clear. They were repeating my name. My heart began to race as I strained to hear more. The whispers were eerie, almost mournful, and they sent chills down my spine. I tried to dismiss it as my imagination playing tricks on me, but the sound was too persistent, too real. I stood up, my hands shaking slightly, and grabbed a flashlight. With each passing moment, the whispers became more insistent, their tone almost pleading. I took a few tentative steps towards the hallway, the light from the flashlight casting long, unsettling shadows on the walls. The whispers seemed to beckon me, urging me to follow them. As I moved closer to the hallway, the whispers grew louder, their disjointed phrases becoming more coherent. My name echoed through the corridor, a haunting refrain that filled me with dread. The house, once a place of safety, now felt like a trap, the darkness hiding unseen dangers. With a deep breath, I stepped into the hallway, the flashlight beam trembling in my hand. The whispers seemed to retreat further down the corridor, leading me towards the basement. The sound was disorienting, as if it was coming from all directions at once. My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of fear and curiosity driving me forward. The hallway felt longer than usual, the darkness amplifying every creak of the floorboards and every gust of wind rattling the windows. The whispers grew louder as I approached the basement door, their tone more urgent, more insistent. I hesitated for a moment, the fear almost overwhelming, but I forced myself to move forward. I reached the top of the basement stairs, the flashlight beam casting eerie shadows on the walls. The whispers were louder than ever, echoing up from the depths below. My breath caught in my throat as I began to descend, each step feeling like a journey into the unknown. As I descended the stairs, the air grew colder, and the whispers seemed to wrap around me like a shroud. The basement, usually a place of storage and forgotten items, now felt like the heart of the storm, the source of the whispers that had lured me in. I could feel my pulse quickening, the sense of dread intensifying with each step. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, the whispers abruptly stopped. The sudden silence was deafening, pressing in from all sides. I felt a chill in the air, a sense of foreboding that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. My flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows that seemed to move on their own. Suddenly, the basement door slammed shut behind me with a loud bang. the sound reverberating through the dark space. Panic set in as I realized I was trapped. The flashlight's beam wavered, and I was plunged into darkness. My breath came in shallow gasps as I scanned the room, trying to make sense of what was happening. I felt a presence around me, an unseen force that seemed to watch my every move. The darkness was oppressive, almost tangible, and I struggled to keep the fear at bay. My mind raced with thoughts of what could be lurking in the shadows, the whispers echoing in my memory. The flashlight flickered back to life, casting a dim light that barely pierced the darkness. I swung the beam around the room, my heart pounding in my chest. The sense of being watched grew stronger, and I could feel the presence closing in. The fear was overwhelming, a suffocating weight that pressed down on me. In the dim light, I could see shadows moving, shapes that seemed to flit just out of sight. My breath came in ragged gasps as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. The presence was almost palpable, a cold, dark force that seemed to wrap around me. I knew I had to get out of there, but my legs felt like lead. The whispers began again, softer this time, almost like a lullaby. They echoed through the basement, filling the space with their haunting refrain. I could feel my resolve weakening, the fear threatening to overwhelm me. I took a step back, then another, my movements slow and deliberate. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered and went out, plunging me into complete darkness once more. The whispers grew louder, their tone more insistent, and I felt something brush against my arm. A cold, fleeting touch that sent a jolt of terror through me. I swung the flashlight wildly, desperate to see, to understand. Finally, the light came back on, revealing an empty basement. The whispers were gone, but the sense of dread remained. I bolted up the stairs, my footsteps echoing in the confined space. I flung the basement door open and ran back to the safety of the living room, my heart pounding in my chest. I locked myself in my room, the fear overwhelming me. The storm outside continued to rage, but the real terror was inside, in the basement. I stayed awake, every creak of the house making me jump, every gust of wind sounding like a whisper in the dark. When dawn finally broke, the storm had passed, and the house was bathed in the soft light of morning. The fear from the night before lingered, a heavy weight on my chest. I ventured downstairs, cautiously checking the basement door. It was closed, just as I had left it. I never discovered the source of the whispers, but the memory of that night still haunts me. I avoid going to the basement alone, the fear of encountering whatever was down there too strong to ignore. The house, once a place of comfort, now holds a dark secret, a reminder of the whispers in the dark. Even now, the sound of rain against the windows brings back the fear, the sense of being watched by unseen eyes. The whispers may have been silenced, but their echo remains, a constant reminder of the night I faced the unknown. The experience left me with a lingering sense of unease, a feeling that I am never truly alone. The basement, once a mundane part of the house, has become a place of dread. The memory of that night is a shadow that follows me, a reminder of the things that lurk in the darkness, waiting to be discovered. Ready for another dose of fear? Stay tuned for the next terrifying story. Subscribe and tell us which story scared you the most. Story 3. The storm raged outside, but the most chilling part was the voice on the phone whispering my name and the shadow moving down the hallway, leaving me in a state of paralyzing fear. On a stormy night, the rain battered against the windows with relentless force. The power went out, plunging the house into complete darkness. Alone and unnerved, I decided to use my cell phone to navigate my way to the kitchen, where I lit some candles to bring a little light and calm into the room. As I tried to settle my nerves, the house phone suddenly rang. The shrill sound cut through the silence, making me jump. Who could be calling during such a fierce storm? I picked up the phone, my heart pounding, only to be met with silence on the other end. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of the storm outside. Then, a soft, disturbing voice began whispering my name. A chill ran down my spine as the voice repeated my name, each whisper more insistent than the last. I hung up immediately, my hands trembling. The phone rang again almost instantly. This time, the voice didn't just whisper my name. It said, "I'm watching you." The words sent a wave of terror through me, and I slammed the phone down again, my breath coming in short, rapid gasps. Desperate to stop the calls, I took the phone off the hook, hoping that would end the torment. The storm seemed to grow even more violent, the wind howling and the rain hammering against the house. I felt a growing sense of unease, as if something was watching me from the shadows. I knew I had to check the doors and windows, ensuring they were all securely locked. With the phone off the hook and the storm raging outside, I moved through the house, checking each door and window. The darkness seemed to close in around me, every shadow a potential threat. I double-checked the locks, my heart pounding with fear. As I made my way back to the living room, the sense of being watched grew stronger. The storm outside was relentless, the wind and rain battering the house with unending fury. I felt a presence in the house, an unseen force that seemed to be lurking just out of sight. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself it was just my imagination, but the unease persisted, a cold dread that settled deep in my bones. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind, seemed to carry a whisper of danger. The darkness felt alive, filled with unseen eyes watching my every move. Returning to the living room, I froze as I saw a shadow moving down the hallway. It was fleeting, barely visible in the dim light, but it was enough to send my heart racing. I grabbed a heavy object from the table, holding it tightly as I strained to see more clearly. The shadow disappeared into the darkness, but the fear remained. I stayed vigilant, every sound and movement amplifying my terror. The house felt like a trap, the shadows hiding unseen dangers. I listened intently, my senses heightened by the adrenaline coursing through my veins. As the minutes stretched into hours, the storm showed no signs of letting up. The wind howled and the rain pounded against the windows, creating a cacophony of noise that masked any other sounds. I could feel the presence in the house, a cold, oppressive force that seemed to be closing in on me. The whispers began again, softer this time, almost like a murmur. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, filling the room with their eerie refrain. I could feel the presence drawing closer, the air growing colder with each passing moment. I clutched the heavy object tightly, my knuckles white with fear. The footsteps echoed through the house, slow and deliberate, each step sending a jolt of terror through me. The presence was almost tangible, a dark force that seemed to wrap around me, suffocating me with its intensity. Panic set in as I realized I was trapped, alone in the dark with something I couldn't see. The fear was overwhelming, a suffocating weight that pressed down on me. I could hear the whispers growing louder, their tone more insistent, as if they were calling me to some unknown fate. Desperation took hold as I waited for the storm to end, for the dawn to bring light and safety. Each minute felt like an eternity, the fear and dread building with each passing second. I knew I had to stay alert, to keep my guard up, but the exhaustion and fear were wearing me down. Finally, as the first light of dawn began to break through the storm clouds, the whispers ceased. The presence that had haunted me throughout the night seemed to dissipate, leaving behind a heavy silence. The power flickered back on, and the house was bathed in the soft glow of morning. I ventured out of my room, the fear still fresh in my mind. The storm had passed, but the memory of the voice on the phone and the shadow in the hallway lingered. I checked the house once more, ensuring everything was as it should be, but the unease remained. The experience left a deep impression on me. I never discovered who the voice on the phone was or what the shadow in the hallway had been, but the terror of that night still haunts me. I avoid being alone during storms, the fear of a repeat encounter too strong to ignore. Even now, the sound of a ringing phone or a storm brewing outside brings back the fear. The memory of the whispers and the shadowy presence is a constant reminder of the unknown dangers that can lurk in the darkness. The night may have ended, but the fear it instilled remains, a shadow that follows me wherever I go.